Hey everyone, this is Joe Hentges with Beyond the Chart, and in this technical analysis of the stock market video, I see some signs the bulls are stumbling, so stay tuned. All right, let's dive in and take a look. We're going to look at the Dow and the Russell 2000 and look at a couple key ETFs and then a couple of stocks, Valiant Pharmaceuticals and Goldman Sachs. So let's get looking at the Dow here. The Dow was down 100 and almost 120 points on Friday, closing below the 10 for the first time in about 3 weeks. And we'll see what the on a weekly basis, it doesn't look quite as weak. My Elliott wave count has not changed. The blue is the preferred count that I've got in here. I still think we're in some kind of sideways flat with an A, B, C. We have not pushed above this high yet, and we have not taken out the old highs from May of 2015. This market just looks like it's coiling sideways, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see where we go forward here. The next thing we're going to take a look at is the Russell 2000, and the Russell 2000 here on a daily basis. A pretty big down move on Friday, down 17.27, closing below the 10-day exponential. And again, that's the first close since May 19th. And so several weeks in here. Now, the interesting thing, I'll hold off and get to my indicators here in a minute. Let's take a look at the weekly chart. This is, let me zoom in a little bit. This is a little more of a doji type candle, not really a reversal type candle. The Russell 2000 was basically flat, down 0.2, 0.2 of a point for the week. So not a whole lot of movement there, although it did have a big move at one point, and then it gave it all back. All right, so that's the picture of those two key indices. Let's take a look at the VIX. The VIX had one heck of a day yesterday. This is the highest close since back over here, March 10th. So we're talking the highest close in 3 months on the VIX. Big move. I saw this during the middle of the week, and I talked to my insider members about this, and I said, look, this is starting to act and looked a little bullish in here, and the market wasn't doing anything. The market wasn't really selling off, but yet the VIX was getting more bullish and closed 2 consecutive closes above the 10, and then we're getting continuation and then this explosion here on Friday. So this is really, really interesting that all of a sudden the VIX is coming alive and getting very, very strong. Now, the other thing about this, the VIX doesn't really look at, the advances, declines, that type of thing. But one thing I noticed when I was looking at one of my other indicators, yet Friday was the lowest number of advancing stocks on the New York Stock Exchange since February 11th. And it was the lowest volume of advancing stocks since February 2nd. So we're talking basically 4 months. The lowest number of advancing stocks on Friday and the lowest number of advancing volume on Friday since all the way back here in February. And that happened on this day here. So given what's going on with the VIX, given that kind of very low, activity of volume to the high side. It does bring into question, is something all of a sudden changing here? All right, so that's the picture on now. Let's take a look at the semiconductors. Semiconductors pulled back, just mirroring the market here, really. This is on a daily chart, closing below the 10. Let's take a look at a weekly. And little bit of a reversal, although it's not an engulfing, but it does look like a little bit of a reversal candle in here on the week. Now, again, you can say there it looks like a reversal, but really the proof's in the pudding. You need some follow through the next week. So that's what we're looking for on that. The home builders, a little more negative. A little bit of a fake out here for the bulls when you have this trend line and it breaks above it on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it collapses back down. And that's a pretty big sell-off, pretty big collapse here on Friday and closing below the 21-day moving average. If we go to the weekly, you can see even more of a reversal bar type action here, very negative, and closing below the trading range of the previous week. Now, granted, it was a little bit compressed the previous week, but still closing below that range. So looks like we're getting a little reversal action here in the home builders. Now the financials, I talked about this last week quite a bit, and then we had this trend line break and upward sloping trend line here that just looked like it was going to be broken, and we broke it on Friday. So now granted, that's not a super bearish looking candle, but it still broke it. Let's take a look at the weekly chart on this, and you got 2 down weeks in a row, didn't close below the 10 week, so we're still still watching this here, and this continues to look like it's starting to weaken anyway, especially when you look at it on a daily basis. You see what's going on there. So we'll continue to monitor the financials. The banks, all the banks got hurt on Friday, let's see. We'll take a look at Goldman Sachs today too. So one other ETF I want to take a look at is the Standard & Poor's BioTech. Had a request for that, so I'm going to go ahead and take a look at that. I think the biotech, it's really just like very close to, did I say the NASDAQ biotech? It's the S&P BioTech ETF, XBI. It's very similar in terms of the look of the NASDAQ biotech IBB. And so you see how we had this pullback in here. Let me get my crosshairs. How the pullback came right back into this low area right here and really formed, this has become very strong resistance. This didn't even get there. This pushed a little bit higher than this point here, but then it's come right back down pretty hard. And I think XBB, I didn't look at I think it's down about 5% this week. So pretty good little pullback on a weekly basis. This just looks like sideways consolidation to me. Let's take a look at the weekly chart. And not quite an engulfing reversal type candle, but it definitely looks like it's selling off and heading south here. That's the picture. It continues to look like we're trending down. So I don't see any change in that picture, and basically it's the same picture as on IBB. All right, so that's it on the ETFs. Let's take a look at Valiant Pharmaceuticals. Okay, I last looked at Valiant Pharmaceuticals 2 weeks ago, and so here was the Friday. I looked at it on Saturday, May 28th, put out a video on this, and I said the trend was down. I felt like we had 5 waves, that C wave, an A, B. Let me zoom back out, from this top, that we're doing a big zigzag, an A, B, C. C should have 5 waves, so I was expecting another 5th wave down in here, and it is either going to be an impulse or some kind of diagonal, okay? And so that's what I said when I had this data in here to show. We had a couple more days to the upside, and then we got the collapse, the breakdown today, this last week, and the earnings came out here on June 7th, and that's what caused this big gap down and sell. Now, we continue to get bullish divergence in here. So I still think this is getting close to trying to turn. I'm not ready to jump in and say, okay, let's get long or anything, but it sure looks like we're in the final stages and maybe the last wave down, and we'll just continue to watch the wave count down in here to see if this is going to turn. All right, the next one we're going to take a look at is Goldman Sachs. And I last talked about Goldman Sachs on this video, on this weekend market update with this close, the day after this close. It was Saturday, May 21st, and I had seen this kind of data. It looked like we'd done a little pullback to the trend line and we were going to roll over and collapse, but they said, no, we're not done going back to the trend line. It went up one more time, then it rolled over, and now it looks like it's breaking down. Now I've put in dotted line in here that I think this is like a little support zone between these lows in here and this low here, slightly below where we're at. We break below this support zone. We close below this, and I think it's definitely going to come down and test these lows down here. So right now, Goldman Sachs, pretty solid break of this trend line. Looks like it's rolling over pretty strongly, and I think the volume really, let's see if I can get rid of that. Yeah, the volume picked up on Friday pretty well, well above the 50-day moving average. That's the dotted line I have, the 50-day moving average of the volume. So big gap down and a big move. Down $3.28 on Friday. And let's see if I throw the weekly in here, and it just continues to look like a pretty weak picture. But this zone is I think pretty critical, and we'll see if we smash through that this week. All right, that's the picture. Hey, if you're watching this anywhere but my website, head on over to the website. But make sure you, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Hit the subscribe button here on the YouTube channel. And hit the thumbs up if you like the video. Hit the thumbs up, and remember to share the video also. So all right, everyone, have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you on the next video.